hold on a second. Hold
okay.
on.
Okay. Do you want me to hang up?
No, hold on a second.
Hey, mine.
Okay, what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna make it 3 parts then, and we'll just do that because I started.
Okay.
Now. I'm pretty sure it was just recording. Hold on, okay, yeah, that one recorded. Okay, good. So where you're good, I just hit. Okay. We're good. Now we'll so it'll be like the 3rd part's like the poem now. So that's cool.
Oh, okay. You want me to pull that up?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. Sorry, just a sec. Oh, there it is. Man, I'm still on their front page. Okay. So you want me to just start reading it?
Yeah, just read it. However
Dude,
you want.
it's so long.
It's all good.
Okay, let me go ahead and start. All right, it's called The Place Where the Wall and the Floor Meet. All right, it's 30 minutes, dude. Okay, we're fine. We're good. All right. I wake up to echoes reverberating around my head. A loud bang, a door slammed downstairs, the sound of something about to happen. Now, tinny chimes are pulsating from below. Each chime is like a shard of glass jammed into my ears. Being wrenched from a sleep this deep is physically painful. As my brain gradually comes online, the chimes organize themselves into a pattern I recognize as the opening notes of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, which is blasting at an inadvisable volume on a low-quality boombox somewhere downstairs. I'm laying as still as I can, and I sense that the girls around me are laying still too. We're waiting for what comes next. We don't have to wait very long. A joyous voice blares over the music, male, unfamiliar, and all the creepier because it's coming from inside the house. Girls, get down here. Bed's made, fully dressed. You've got 3 minutes. Activity explodes from the bunks around me, with girls scrabbling at blankets and sheets. I sit up in bed, catching the eyes of a girl on the bunk across from me. She glances toward the door, then back at me. Hurry, she mouths, still yanking her twisted sheets into place. I get to work on my own bed. It's my 3rd time waking up here, which means it's my 3rd frantic attempt to wrestle my blankets into taut military-style perfection in 3 minutes or less. Within a minute and a half, all of the other girls are already on the ground, getting dressed. I'll later learn that they sleep strategically so as not to mess up their beds, in hopes of helping this part of the morning run more smoothly. Are you decent? Booms the voice from downstairs. The girls in my room momentarily stop. They look at each other, the silent question circulating in the room. Should we answer? They shrug, then continue jerking pants past their hips and tugging shirts over their heads. I said, are you dressed? You can answer me, he yells. Yeah, everyone's dressed, but new girl is still in her pajamas, yells one of the girls from my room. Footsteps thunder up the stairs and a face appears in our doorway. It's that guy, Chafin, the assistant director. I'd firmly placed him as belonging to the office, to the part of the facility up the road. What's he doing in our cabin in the middle of the night? Chafin's face lights up when he sees me still wrestling with the sheets atop my bunk. New girl, that's a warning. Now everybody has to wait for you. For each minute you make us wait, everyone in Destiny Family gets a warning. Though the girls around me remain quiet, it's like I can feel their silent groans rippling through the air, assaulting me from every side. Like any new kid anywhere, all I want is to make friends in this place. I'm sorry, I want to shout. And then I just want to lay face down on my bed and scream forever. But I can't, so I just keep struggling to get my sheets into place. The girl from the other bunk shoots me a look like, stupid new girl, I told you to hurry. Erica, nonverbal communication? That's a warning, Erica. Erica's face goes blank. She won't look at me. Joey, are you keeping track? A thin blonde boy appears beside Chafin and nods. New girl, Cat 1, NFSD, Erica, Cat 1, nonverbal communication. It's taken me 3 days to figure it out, but warnings and Category 1 rule violations are actually the same thing, though they're most often just called warnings. In the outside world, a warning is a hint that if you continue with your bad behavior, bad things will happen to you. But judging by the girls' reactions to warnings, in this place, they skip the actual warning and just do the bad thing while calling it a warning. Warnings are high stakes, or at least that's what I've gathered from the other girls' reactions to them. I'm still very confused as to what a warning does to you. It's something about points and levels, which correspond to when you'll be allowed to go home, I think. Nobody has actually sat me down to explain. Oh, 1 minute down. That's a warning for the whole family, shouts Chafin, barely able to contain his glee. I hear a sharp intake of breath from one of the other girls in the room, then a stifled sob from Erica. 2 warnings in the first 5 minutes of her day. She is not okay. I keep my eyes on my work, cursing the new wrinkles that appear on the surface of the bed every time I manage to make a previous wrinkle disappear. My hands are shaking. It's an observation I make from very far away. New girl, the way you treat your Destiny family here is the way you treat your family at home. How's this a reflection of your life? A reflection of my life? What does that even mean? Uh-oh, another minute gone by, shouts Chafin giddily. That's another morning for the whole family. Good job, new girl. Down the hall, there's a shriek of frustration and rage. Who was that? Shouts Chafin, and nobody answers him. Joey, go down the hall and find out who that was. They get a disrespect to staff. I think it was someone in the last room. Joey dutifully disappears from the doorway, walking down the hall. Who was it? I hear him say from down the hall. I'm plucking pieces of lint off my blanket as fast as I can because you can get a warning for lint too. I'll later learn that's the reason why a lot of girls won't wear socks to bed, even on a cold night. Apparently, an entire night of curling into a ball to keep your feet warm is preferable to receiving a warning in the morning. Come on, girls. Someone made that noise. You may as well tell me now because we're going to find out, says Joey. Give them all a warning, thunders Chafin. The whole room. It was Sarah, Joey shouts from down the hall. Chafin rolls his eyes. Sarah, category 1 rule violation, disrespect to staff. Joey's voice ripples from down the hall, along with a choked sob from Sarah. I hoist myself to the ladder of the bunk bed, leaning my entire body over the expanse of the blanket, which is looking pretty good now. I give it one more pull and reach through the bars to tuck the edge of the blanket under the thin mattress. Then I lower myself to the ground, pull one of my laundry baskets from under the bed, grab my clothes, and raise my hand. Yes, says Chafin. Our eyes meet, and the recognition of who and what he is floods my mind. He's like an overgrown puppy with razor-sharp teeth and sharp little puppy claws, and no sense of his body in space, and no concern for how his movements influence others. A puppy who hasn't been properly socialized, one that forgets how to stop biting when you yip. Clifford the big red dog, but mean. I'm pretty sure that he perceives all of these qualities in himself as an adorable and fun-loving mischievousness. May I cross to the bathroom, I ask, because I've learned enough in the last 3 days to know that I'm not allowed to walk through a doorway without asking permission. You may, says Chafin with a flourish. And because I'm not allowed to close the bathroom door, he and Joey head to the landing so the female night watch can supervise me. I go into the bathroom to change. Have you ever changed so fast that your shirt collar gives you a bloody nose as you rake it across your face and over your head? I grab a piece of toilet paper, roll it up, and stick it in my nose, hoping it will staunch the flow before I finish peeing. The night watch sees the blood and she bites down on her lip, forehead wrinkled in concern, but she says nothing. This is the first of many little injuries I'll give myself in the program. In these invented high-pressure situations, it's like I forget the dimensions of my body. I'm a sea anemone waving alien appendages that seem not to belong to me, a neonate unwittingly clawing at my own face. When I'm finished changing, we all line up at the front door downstairs. We're counting off our numbers, marching down the muddy road toward where? We don't know. None of us knows. Only Chafin knows, and he's all lit up with his solitary knowing. Chafin takes great pleasure in his job. It's sleeting and cold, being September in the middle of the night in northern Montana, but we've been instructed that we wouldn't be needing our jackets. So we march on, bare arms prickling against the night, trying hard not to let much space open up between ourselves and the girl ahead of us. There have been enough warnings so far today, and the sun isn't even up yet. Suddenly the line stops and I run into the girl ahead of me. Everyone is staring at Chafin, who stopped beside the line. He blows a whistle loudly, though we're all lined up about 2 feet away. Divide yourselves into groups of 3. Choose wisely. Your group will have a profound effect on your performance tonight, says Chafin. Jen, Sarah, and Melissa quickly band together. Then Erica, Laura, and Lisa link arms. I'm surprised that Lisa is participating. She's a junior staff, which, as far as I can tell, means she's a god. The other new girl's cold fingers dig into my arm. I wish I knew her name, but I've only ever heard it once, and ever since, everyone has just referred to her as the new girl. And since I got here, I'm the new girl. One of you needs to take Shireen, Chafin says. Shireen is the girl with multiple sclerosis. She's wobbly on her feet and not very fast. I reach out for her arm, and she turns to smile at me. Nobody wants to be picked last for the team, but it's better than not being picked at all. Okay, Here's the rules, Chafin shouts. Whenever I blow this whistle, he pauses to blow it, and an ear-splitting shriek fills the space behind my eyes with white light. Whenever you hear that sound, you have exactly 3 seconds to be touching your buddies. If you're not touching, then there will be consequences. He waggles his hand at us for everyone. The other new girl's hand tightens on my arm. I pat her hand without looking at her. It's hard sometimes to know what will get you a warning for nonverbal communication. So your task, Chafin says, pumping his hands with excitement, is for each group to build a rock wall right here that's 6 feet tall by 6 feet long by 6 feet wide, I guess. Remember, when I blow the whistle, here he favors us with another ear-splitting blast. The girls to either side of me flinch, but none of us reaches up to cover our ears. When I blow this whistle, you have to be touching the people on your team within 3 seconds. Ready, set, go, he yells, and then he blasts the whistle for good measure, which leads to some confusion among us girls. Did that last whistle blast mean go, or did it mean we're supposed to be touching our buddies? We cling to each other for a moment, terrified, until Jen, Sarah, and Melissa seem to make a decision. They start running around gathering rocks. The only problem is there are few rocks bigger than a small human fist, and most are only gravel sized. Chafin wants us to build 6-foot cubes made of gravel, which is an extraordinarily silly task, but every girl here is taking it as seriously as death, and I'm supposed to work alongside them, acting like it's normal. Perhaps you could make a 6-foot cube out of gravel by using mud as some kind of binding agent, but only under perfect conditions. It's darn well impossible to do on a rainy night like tonight. I can't say that to Chafin, of course. I may be the new girl, but I'm not an idiot. The other new girl isn't an idiot either. She's down on the ground using her entire upper body, including outstretched arms, as a plow, creating a modest mound with the muddy gravel. Shireen, wobbly as ever, is bending and tossing armfuls of gravel onto the mound as quickly as she can. I leap into action, following the other new girl's lead, plowing a soupy mixture of mud and rock toward our mound. Soon, there's no more gravel near our mound, so I have to go a bit further afield. I try to signal the other girls in my group that I'll be moving that away, so should the whistle blow, they'll know where to find me. I manage to bring back a heaping armful of gravel. I run for more and return with another armful. On the third time, I get cocky and I go a bit further. Chafin, who's been watching me, blows his whistle. I desperately run towards Shireen, gravel scattering in my wake, noting that the other new girl is probably too far to make it back to us in time. 1, this is Chafin screaming. 2, other new girl is diving headfirst towards Shireen, and her hand makes contact with Shireen's ankle just as Chafin, disappointed, shouts the number 3. I grin at other new girl, and she brandishes her arm, which sports several long scrapes. The blood is just beginning to find its way to the surface. I grimace. Chafin blows the whistle again. We scatter, trying desperately to find rocks. This goes on until Chafin tires of his game, or maybe until he realizes that we're prioritizing the instruction of don't get a warning over build a rock wall, and he's not sure how to punish us appropriately. So Chafin instructs us to lie on our backs. He's going to tell us a bedtime story, he says. If we listen carefully, we'll hear numbers in the story. When we hear the number 1, we need to, I said, lie on your backs, he interrupts himself. We look at the ground at our feet, which, absent the gravel we've so dedicatedly heaped into mounds, has become a mud puddle. Melissa, always game, lays down atop her group's mound. Sarah immediately follows suit, laying on Lisa, Erica, and Laura's mound, and Jen takes ours. The rest of us gingerly lower ourselves into the mud. I was already wet, but now I'm so much more than wet. My cotton t-shirt sodden. Whatever heat I'd managed to generate over the building of the mound has dissipated entirely. The cold makes it hard for me to pinpoint the location of the rocks under my back and my butt. I know it hurts, but I don't know exactly where. And I don't know if I'm allowed to try to move the pointy rocks from under me. Good. So what I was saying, says Chafin. He goes on to explain that every time he says a number in his bedtime story, we're to raise or lower our legs to a height that corresponds with the number. We have to keep our legs perfectly straight. One day, says Chafin, and all of us, still laying on our backs, raise our feet to about 6 inches off the ground. Keep those legs straight, Laura, he shouts cheerfully. Anyway, one day, I decided I wanted to buy 2 ice creams. The other girls and I raise our feet to about a foot off the ground. Laura, that's too high. You got to keep them about here. Chafin wrestles her feet into place as Laura begins to sob. As soon as Chafin turns away, I see Lisa scoot closer to Laura. It looks as if she's using her feet to help Laura hold up her legs. So I wanted to buy 2 ice creams, but the guy at the grocery store told me it would be $4. And I said, $4 is way too much. It should be more like 3. Chafin pauses, then turns to Joey, whispering something in his ear. Around me, girls are whimpering as we struggle to keep our feet about 1.5 feet off the ground. Keep those legs up, Chafin shouts. So we haggled over the price for a while, and finally he told me I could only get a discount if I bought 10 ice creams. There are immediate sounds of relief as we put our feet straight up into the air. And I was like, how am I supposed to eat 10 ice creams? I'm only 1 man. We lower our feet to 6 inches again, and several of the girls around me cry out. I'm shivering uncontrollably now, and it's hard to even be aware of where my feet are hovering in space. Joey, shouts Chafin, gesturing towards us. Joey comes over and gently pushes down on my feet. I struggle to keep them above the ground. Don't let those feet touch the ground, new girl. That would be a mistake, says Chafin. Joey moves on to the next girl, pushing her feet down. Where was I, says Chafin, sounding genuinely confused. Oh, yeah. So I was like, I'm only 1 man and I can't eat 10 ice creams. I only want 2. And the guy was like, then you'll have to pay $4. Legs straight, Kelly. Oh, yes, that's the other new girl's name, Kelly. Okay, now get into push-up position. The same storytelling motif is applied to push-ups. The girls around me all seem to be crying. I feel a little bloom of pride because I'm not crying and I'm not going to cry. In fact, I'm rather enjoying this. This new girl is finally being given a chance to prove herself, and she will triumph. Next, we're meant to run up and down a steep slope, maybe 15 feet up, 10 times, and slap Chafin's hand each time we reach the top. This wasn't a natural slope with roots and foliage to hold it in place, but the man-made edge of a pit, all gravel wedging itself between shoe and skin and loose, wet dirt that crumbles under your body weight. So it's the bodies of 8 girls eroding the dirt wall and a mad scramble to the top. Laura pauses at the bottom to throw up. She heaps dirt over the spot and then continues climbing, all the while sobbing. On my way back down, I see that Lisa is behind Laura, holding her up and pushing her along. Shireen is only on her 2nd climb, making a valiant effort, but getting caught behind her is torture. Erica throws up too. I'm on climb number 9, and ahead of me, I hear Melissa shout 10 as she slaps Chafin's hand to signify her final climb. Then she stands at the top with her hands on her knees, breathing hard. Good job, Melissa, says Chafin, and my heart lifts. There's praise in this place? I barrel down toward the bottom like a downhill skier, narrowly missing Shireen, then ascend for the last time, slapping Chafin's hand and shouting 10, and taking my place next to Melissa. Are you sure that was 10, new girl, says Chafin sharply. It was 10, Joey says. I counted. Do 1 more, says Chafin, gesturing down the hill. She really did 10, says Joey, but then he falls silent when Chafin shoots him a look. I scramble down the hill, but a little more slowly this time. By the time I get back to the top, I'm the 5th girl to finish. Ugh, just a sec, I need to drink. How are you holding up? It's super
Good.
long, huh?
No, you're good.
So you guys didn't do this, the gravel pit? Because I think when I was in the program,
we might have, but I might have blacked it out because I don't know. There's a lot of shit that I blacked out.
Yeah, it was pretty miserable. The girls, most of the girls that I was there with, I wrote to them and I said, hey, I'm going to write this story. And they remembered it. Some of them said they didn't remember, but anyway, okay. I'll get back to it. It's so long. Okay. So, okay. So, by the time I get to the top, I'm the 5th girl to finish. The rest of the girls make it to the top and line up behind me. Shireen is heroically climbing from the bottom, but mercifully, Chafin tells her to stop. You don't have to do this next part, Shireen, he says. Just a little bit of background here. Shireen actually had multiple sclerosis, and within the next couple months, she would be in a wheelchair. Her parents, when she started showing symptoms of multiple sclerosis, her parents thought she was on drugs. So they sent her to the program because they thought she was on drugs. She had never done drugs in her life. She just had a chronic disease that was going to kill her. And she spent months, even after they knew her diagnosis, she was in the program until she needed a wheelchair. And as an adult, this is the thing I think about her, and I just want to lose it. I can't believe that she spent, you know, so much time in that horrible place, that she did not deserve it at all. She was not a bad kid. Anyway, so that's the story with Shireen. She just got worse and worse while she was there. Anyway, okay. So you don't have to do this next part, Shireen. He says, all of the other girls seem to be sobbing. I am not, which is a welcome change from the past 3 days, when it feels like all I've done is cry. The movement feels good to me, like I'm shaking off all the anxiety that has built up in my body. Now you're all going to follow Joey, Chafin says. Joey, take these girls on a tour of the gravel pit. Shireen, you stay here. Joey takes off running at a good pace. He's still fresh because he's mostly just been standing idly, while the rest of us were building mounds, doing push-ups, and climbing the embankment. Melissa takes off after him. He scrambles down the hill. We all scramble down the hill. He runs in a figure eight. We all run in a figure eight. He climbs back up the hill, and we all climb back up the hill, winded. We carry on like this for a while in a tight line, but when I leave a little space between myself and the girl ahead, the girl behind me overtakes me. So we're allowed to pass people? I pass that girl, then the next girl, then the next. This is my strength, navigating outdoor spaces with roots and bushes underfoot. I've been running around up and down forest hills and creek beds since I was small. Soon I passed everyone except Melissa, and I feel like I'm gaining on her. That's when Chafin shouts to Joey that he can stop. Apparently it's over. I was just getting warmed up, just starting to feel confidence in my body and my strength. The girls behind me are heaving and sobbing, and ahead of me, I think I catch Melissa giving me a wry smile. That's right, Melissa, you've met your match, I think, smiling a little myself. Then Chafin tells us to line up, and we find ourselves marching back up the road toward the cabin. The sun is rising somewhere beyond the trees, and I'm feeling exuberant. The last 3 days have been utter torture. So this was my third night in the program that this happened. So the last 3 days have been utter torture. This outdoor workout stuff is hard too, but it's hard in a way that I can handle. Give me a goal, let me suffer. After 3 days of near total silence, silence in the classroom, silence in the cafeteria, silence in the cabin, silence in line while walking back and forth from these 3 places, after all that silence and confusion, I'm thrilled to be throwing myself into an activity. I'm thrilled to have a tangible goal. Hopefully, this being on silence thing has all just been a temporary challenge, and it's not a feature of this program. Maybe it will end tonight. Maybe now I can get to know these girls. Maybe now the therapeutic part of this therapeutic boarding school would start to happen. Eventually, someone took up a call and repeat song. I shout along happily. We are destiny, mighty, mighty destiny. Everywhere we go, people ought to know who we are. So we tell them, we are destiny, mighty, mighty destiny. I'm the new girl, and that was hard. But I came in second place. I'm jubilant. We arrive at the cabin. I figure it's time for showers, clean, dry clothes, maybe a hot drink to warm up. Will they let us sleep in since we were up half the night running around in the dark? Probably, maybe. I can picture myself up in my room giggling and chatting with my roommates, finally getting to know them. Things will get better now. They'll get more normal now. Oh, thank God, thank God, thank God. It's going to be okay. We pile into the living room with smiles and laughter until Chafin says, all right, girls, circle up. Instantly, the energy in the room pivots. The girls, suddenly subdued, sit down in a circle on the floor. Everyone's still damp and shivery. I find a spot next to Kelly and sit as well. Jen, you're up first, says Chafin, and Jen stands and takes her place in the middle of the circle. One by one, the girls around the circle give their impressions of Jen's performance at the gravel pit. Really saw your natural leadership skills out there. Boy, I couldn't believe how fast you scrambled up that hill. I think it really shows that you took the silence challenge to heart and you've been internalizing the lessons you've learned. I tell her I admire her athleticism. One by one, each girl steps to the middle of the circle, and similar things are said about her performance in the gravel pit. I'm getting excited for my turn. I've been living with these strangers for 3 days, and besides the brief introductions on the first day, Erica is the only one who's verbally addressed me, and only to tell me when I've inadvertently broken a rule. Other new girl, or Kelly, stands now and enters the center of the circle. At first, the girls are going along the same vein, telling her how good she did, telling her she worked hard. But then something shifts. One girl, who's been there the longest, looks Kelly in the eye and with a cold stare lets it slip that she thinks she's an attention whore. Then the next girl steps up and tells her she's always going out for male acceptance. Kelly's smile fades and her eyes go wide. She appears to be in a strangely subdued panic. I couldn't see why she was getting that kind of negativity. Her performance in the gravel pit was as good as any of the other girls, better, in fact, than many of them. And though she didn't run as fast as me at the end, she gave a solid effort. I tell her she was a good teammate and that I could see her dedication when she pushed the gravel with her entire upper body. She beams at me. She has the most expressive, sweet face. I can tell that when or if we're allowed to talk, Kelly and I will become good friends. When her turn in the middle is over, Kelly sits down next to me. She flashes me a glance, and while her look is overwhelmingly one of relief, there's an edge of anxiety there too. Later, I'll realize that while she was relieved for herself, she probably knew what was coming for me. It's my turn. Blood thrumming in my head, I stand and enter the center of the circle. Will they recognize how hard I worked? Were they impressed? Were my efforts enough? Let's have everyone stand for this one, says Chafin, smiling. Should I start? No, I'll let you girls start. No, I'll start. Chafin steps into the circle. His face is very close to mine. I have to work hard not to step away. Your name offends me, he says softly, though his face is impassive. My stomach lurches before the words even register. You know why your name offends me? Because my brother's name is Cameron, and sometimes we call him Cam. And my wife's sister's name is Cami. And it just seems wrong that someone great like her has to share a name with someone like you. He steps back. He looks at me. Put your arms down, he says. Huh? You shouldn't cross your arms across your body when you're receiving feedback. It's closed body language. It shows you're not taking in what I'm saying. You have to take it in. You have to accept it. Oh, I say, reluctantly, I lower my arms. For the rest of our struggle session, I have to consciously remember not to cover my stomach. The room is silent, but only for a moment. Lisa steps forward. You're from the Bay Area, right? She asks, and I nod. Well, so am I. And I can just see you out there on the streets listening to gangster rap, thinking you're all hard. I open my mouth to correct her because what she said is just factually inaccurate. I don't listen to gangster rap. And as a sheltered middle-class white girl, I know I have no claim to being hard. I typically listen to grunge or alternative music, which would be obvious if they hadn't stripped me of my band t-shirts, my holy jeans, and my Converse high tops. I think most people would safely describe my aesthetic as depressed, which was much more fitting to my station in life. Actually, I say, and the room erupts. No rebuttals, the girls scream in unison, and Chafin chortles. I'm ashamed, but I don't actually know what rebuttals means. But I gather that now is not the time to try and expand my vocabulary. I could totally see that you were going out for Joey's acceptance, continues Lisa, bright blue eyes inches from my face. My mouth opens of its own accord. Joey is cute, sure, but I haven't been trying to get his attention. Oh, you thought nobody noticed that? Another girl says. You've been crying since the moment you got here, but then there's a boy around and you're suddenly like a super athlete. Anything to get male attention, right? I wonder what kind of stuff you were doing at home to make the boys like you. You were totally one of those girls, weren't you? My mouth starts quivering. I'm a virgin, I want to say, but I have kissed boys. There have been clumsy fumblings in darkened rooms, so maybe she's right. Another girl steps into the circle. Oh, PPM, says the girl, raising her fists and twisting them near her eyes to mimic crying. Oh, PPM, my parents sent me to a program because I'm a spoiled brat. By now she's screaming inches from my face. I can taste her breath. When she's finished, I whisper, sorry, what's PPM? No rebuttal, screams the room. Oh, so you want to know what PPM is, says the girl, lowering her voice again. It means poor, pitiful me. That's all I see when I look at you, a poor, pitiful crybaby. Several of the girls raise their hands to mimic crying. I do my best to mold my vibrating face into a skeptical look, willing my eyes to stay dry. Sorry. Another girl steps forward. You are so gross. You are disgusting. I hate even looking at you. Ever since you got here, you've sucked the air out of every room we walk into. I hope your parents pull you so I don't have to look at you anymore. If I'd wondered what these girls thought of me or if we would ever be friends, I knew the answer now. The girl is still yelling, and her hair is sticking up at all angles, matted with dirt from the gravel pit. Her hair flips around as she jerks her head with every shrieked word. Several times, her spit spackles my face. If I let my eyes go fuzzy, she kind of looks like a manic Muppet. If I could turn the volume down on her words, she would almost be cute. When it becomes clear that manic Muppet isn't sure what to say next, another girl steps in, then another, then another. It's wild, I think, from somewhere outside myself, how I've only been here for 3 days and I've barely said a word, but these girls, virtual strangers, could immediately all see how stupid, useless, repulsive, and incompetent I am. It's dawning on me slowly, that every bad thing I've ever thought about myself is 100% true, and that there are a bunch of other bad things about me that I haven't yet discovered, which these girls are now taking pleasure in pointing out. These insights will occupy my mind for many a teeth-grinding night for years to come. We've come full circle and are back to Lisa, who informs me that I have a smirk on my face. This is a complete surprise to me. Anything I'm doing with my face is simply a desperate ploy not to cry. You want to act all hard? Okay, be hard. You've been crying since you got here, but you're actually not sad, are you? No, you're angry. So why don't you show your anger? I want you to go around the circle and give every girl here a push, and push every girl here one by one as hard as you can. Like physically push them? I asked, genuinely confused. Like physically push them, says Lisa, doing a fair imitation of my stupid voice. Yeah, that's what I said, isn't it? It's time for you to go get some of your anger out. So I start by giving Lisa a good shove. Is that all you've got? She asks. So I shove her again, and it does feel good. One by one, I push the girls. Just a few short hours ago, I'd hoped that they would become my friends, but now I know they won't. When I get to Shireen, I forget about her MS and I shove her with just as much force as I did the other girls. She stumbles. Oh my gosh, I say, reaching out to help her. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Shireen says. She's holding my shoulders to steady herself. I'm distantly aware that somewhere behind me, a girl is mimicking my apology and screaming that I didn't really mean it, that I try to seem so sweet and nice so people will go easy on me, but actually I'm just being manipulative. My eyes are still locked on Shireen's face because Shireen is talking too, though without words. She's saying something like, none of this is real. You know that, don't you? It's just a stupid game. It's a message that only with her eyes, but clear as day nonetheless. But it feels so real, I tell her. I want to tell her. And she looks back at me with such genuine amusement and empathy that something pops behind my eyes and I finally start crying in earnest. There's a palpable change in the room. The angry energy dissipates. Chafin leads me over to the wall near the door. He directs me to kneel and put my nose in the place where the wall and the floor meet. I kneel. I lower my head. It is actually quite hard to put your nose in the place where the wall and the floor meet. I can feel the eyes of Chafin, Joey, and the girls on me as I kneel, then lean forward. Nose, says Chafin. I lean forward as far as I can, butt up in the air, aware that everyone in the room is probably watching me. I turn my neck to the left, scoot forward on my knees, and thrust my upper body forward so I can jam my face into the corner where my nose touches both the floor and the wall. It requires me to strain my whole body. I'm not sure how long I can keep it up. If I knelt parallel to the wall, it would have been easier and more comfortable. But my ease and comfort obviously aren't the purpose of this exercise, so I'm not sure if Chafin will allow me to change my position. I sneeze and hit my nose on the floor and wonder if it started to bleed again. After that, I breathe through my mouth. Behind me, Chafin is addressing the girls, but I'm not listening to what he's saying. I'm in my right place. My role here has been fulfilled. At some point, the day staff arrive. Chafin pulls them aside and they have a whispered conversation. Eventually, the girls are dismissed from the front room, and I can hear them running around the cabin, accompanied by an endless chorus of, Can I cross? Can I cross? Ringing through the rooms. They're getting ready for the day, and I'm still kneeling with my face in that place where the wall and the floor meet. I don't remember how I ultimately got out of that position. I want to say that after Chafin left, one of the staff said, I guess you can get up now. But the moment seemed to never end. Regardless, I do know that we were still on silence the rest of that day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next, and that each day bled into the next. We trudged down the road to the classroom where we sat silently, then we walked to the cafeteria where we ate silently, then to the basketball courts where we walked in silent circles around the pavement. The only punctuation points to the silence are warnings, which are slingshotted into a girl's day like a rocket that she's not allowed to react to. The only time we'll talk in the following days will be during group, which means more of that circling up, more screaming in each other's faces. The victim is different every day, but other than that, each day will be like the next day and the day after that and the day after that, until eventually Chafin will summon us for another process or a challenge, or one of the other staff will dream up a challenge of their own, or we'll have a seminar or a facility meeting, and all of them will include the screaming in each other's faces. And the only way to stop the screaming is to cry. But you can't start crying too fast. They'll call you out for being manipulative. And you can't cry too much or you'll get a reputation as a PPM. Your progress depends on your ability to wield your tears strategically. You learn to dole them out when they're needed, a helping for the staff so they can feel powerful, a dash for that kid when they're in need of a lift, buckets in seminars where they're expected. Your tears are your currency in a place where your only other currency is silence and compliance. The next day, Chafin comes back to our cabin for group. He comes bearing gifts for me alone. He holds out a paper heart. It's colored with crayon. It's burnt around the edges to give it an old look. There's a yellow string looped from a hole punched at the top of the heart. The yarn is long enough to be worn around one's neck. Written in a childish scrawl across the heart, it says, "True beauty is found within." Also tied to the string is Chafin's wedding ring. He holds these offerings out to me like a bashful kindergartner with a Valentine, an all-powerful kindergartner with a Valentine that I'm not allowed to refuse. He tells me I can wear his wedding ring all week, that he's trusting me with it, and so I should wait, and to please be careful. He tells me something about how maybe he was wrong, that maybe I'm actually just a sweet person like his wife or something. Whatever he's saying now feels less real than what he said the other night when he leaned in close and told me my very name was offensive to him. Now, in the bright light of day, with this man holding out a paper heart and his wedding ring, clarity eludes me. I cast my eyes around the room, searching the faces of the girls and the staff for comprehension. Guys, this is weird, right? I want to say, guys. But around me, feminine cooing has reached a crescendo. "Aww," they say, a sound better suited to a bridal or baby shower. I take the paper heart from Chafin's outstretched hands, smiling, mouthing, "Thank you," hoping the tears rolling from the corners of my eyes look like happy tears, like I'm crying because I'm so moved by his thoughtfulness and trust in me. But really, I'm crying because I realize I've been duped. This therapeutic boarding school where I hope to become a better person is neither therapeutic nor is it a school. The things that will happen here are not going to help me. In fact, what happens here over the next year and a half will mess with my well being for decades to come and possibly for the rest of my life. Oh, sorry, I need a drink again.
Okay.
There's more, but do you think like,
You're good.
that's kind of the end of the story part.
Well, if you have
But I
more,
can
go
read the
ahead.
rest. It's
Yeah,
mostly just my hate for Chafin, which I know is like immature. Anyway, I'll just read. Okay. Now, 25 years later, at age 40, I've become obsessed with this idea that people can occupy the same physical space but live in parallel realities. They can witness the same things and ask themselves the same questions and come up with totally different answers. How does Chafin conceptualize the things he did to us program kids? What's the story he tells himself? Did he really think that he was helping us? Or on some level, did he realize that maybe he just really enjoyed having and exercising power over teenage girls? I really meant to depict Chafin with nuance, recognizing his humanity. That's a quality I appreciate in mature, thoughtful writing. I genuinely subscribe to the idea that there are no good guys, there are no bad guys, just deeply flawed people doing their best. But every time I try to write about Chafin, he comes out as a monster. I don't know how to fix it. I do this meditation sometimes. I think of specific people and go through a series of wishes for them. I do this for loved ones. I do this for near strangers. I do it for difficult people in my life. It's soothing. It helps me take a wider view. I picture my best friend and I think, I wish you freedom from suffering. I wish you success in your worthy endeavors. I wish you peace and joy. I picture a different family member. I wish you freedom from suffering. I wish you success or sorry, I picture a difficult family member. I wish you freedom from suffering. I wish you success in your worthy endeavors. I wish you peace and joy. I picture the trucker who cut me off in traffic the other day. I wish you freedom from suffering. I wish you success in your worthy endeavors. I wish you peace and joy. I picture that kid who bullied me in 6th grade. I wish you freedom from suffering. I wish you success in your worthy endeavors. I wish you peace and joy. I picture Chafin. I wish you freedom from, I wish you, fuck that guy. Maybe it's right for him to suffer a little bit. He is the only person from my life that I can't seem to do that meditation for. That's saying something, isn't it? I can do it for all the other staff in the program. They weren't bad people. They were just swept up in a bad machine. But when it comes to Chafin, I'm not totally sure. That's why I would love to hear Chafin's version of the story of the night of the gravel pit. I'd love to hear what he thought I would gain from putting my nose in the place where the wall meets the floor. Chafin, if you're reading this, write it out. Let me know. I'm so curious. It would be cool to develop some degree of empathy for you. It would also be cool to be a fly on the wall when Chafin explains his take on the movement to regulate the troubled teen industry. Are we all just whiners who couldn't handle the natural consequences of our actions? One of the most common refrains we would hear as kids in the program was, "You chose to be here based on your actions at home," or "Based on results, you have exactly what you intended." Their goal was to drive home the idea that we absolutely deserved everything they dished out. It was the ultimate in using someone's hand to hit them in the face and saying, "Stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself." Here's the thing about Chafin, though. He and his twin brother, Cameron, have been embroiled in several lawsuits over the years. The first that I'm aware of involved the suicide of Carly Newman, a 16-year-old girl who killed herself at Spring Creek in 2004. They were charged with wrongful death, negligence, breach of contract, deceit, and constructive fraud. They were never, as far as I can tell, charged with harassing depressed teenage girls until they genuinely wanted to die. I wonder how suicidal Carly was when she arrived at Spring Creek. We do know that she never managed to kill herself at home, with all of the freedom, sharp objects, and other suicide assists that homes provide. And yet she managed to follow through with the act in the program, where it would have taken a great deal of planning and forethought, not to mention constant scanning for the exact moment when she could get the job done, given that we were supervised 24/7 in the program. I don't know if she had a history of suicide attempts or suicidal ideation, but even if she did, it seems she became more motivated while at the program. I wonder if she ever spent time with her nose in the place where the wall and the floor meet, because I can tell you firsthand, when it comes to wanting to kill yourself, that'll do the trick. Anyway, after that lawsuit, there were lawsuits involving sexual abuse and grooming, and most recently, another suicide. I think they're still fighting that one, hiring lawyers with money our parents gave them in good faith, believing that they would help us. But let's assess their battle in court against what happens to your average program kid. First off, Chafin gets a trial. He'll only be locked up if evidence leads to conviction. Program kids get no trial. We had kids in the program for talking back. We had kids in the program for a bad attitude. We had kids in the program who'd been sexually abused. The school billed itself as therapeutic, remember? Still, a majority were in for the kinds of things I was in for. I smoked weed, I ditched school, and I kissed boys. But we also had Shireen. When Shireen began to show MS symptoms, shaking, blurred vision, bumping into things, her parents thought she was on drugs. No drug test, no evidence. She got locked up on their suspicion alone. When the truth came out that she wasn't on drugs, that she was simply sick with a chronic illness that would eventually kill her, the program held on to her for months. They only let her go when caring for her became too much trouble, as a result of the fact that she ended up needing a wheelchair. As a kid, I cried for myself and what I went through in the program. As an adult, I cry for Shireen. Anyway, back to Chafin and the allegations against him. Chafin gets a judge and a jury to adjudicate and compare his case against similar cases to get some sense of his innocence or guilt. Program kids get no judge or jury. The only thing it takes to lock them up is parent inclination and family or insurance money. Chafin gets a lawyer, again paid for by our parents' money, to defend him. Program kids get no lawyer. And finally, if Chafin is found guilty, which he won't be, Chafin gets to go to prison. Hold up there. You say prison is bad. I know. I've seen Orange is the New Black too. It looks rough. But here's the thing. Every person I know who's been to both prison and the program says that the program was hands down worse. Let me repeat that again for the people in the back. People who've experienced both say that prison is preferable to the program. And yet Chafin is fighting like hell to stay out of prison. So I'll give him the same message he was so fond of conveying to us program kids. You can choose your actions, Chafin, but you can't choose your consequences. You should just accept the natural consequences to your actions. Based on results, you have exactly what you intended. There's still so much more to say about the subject, but I think this is good enough for today. You've stuck with me for nearly 20 pages. Thank you. I wish you freedom from suffering. I wish you success in your worthy endeavors. I wish you peace and joy. But Chafin can rot in hell. And that's that. Told you it was long.
No, you're good. So it sounds like to me that they were using the completely same kind of tactics that they were using with Alon and stuff at Spring Creek when Spring Creek first started. Because that's like what they were doing to you in the rock pit sounds more along the lines of what they would do to people in the game, if you've heard of what happens in Elon and whatever.
Yeah, I watched that documentary, The Last Stop.
Yeah,
but
that sounds more along the lines of what they were kind of doing to you, to me.
Yeah, things in the beginning, like because the facility went from like 30 kids or something to like 300 while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching as the new girls came in and just being like, whoa, like they're not facing any of the things that I faced when I first got here. Like they might get feedback a month after they arrived. Not, it's not like Chafin came and got them out of the cabin in the middle of the night to give them feedback the way he did with me. So I think when it was a lot smaller, it was a lot more like personalized and like they'd come after you when you were a new kid. But I mean, I'm not saying like it was way worse. I think like you usually feel like, oh my gosh, it was so much harder for me when I was your age. But I just remember watching the new girls and be like, gosh, you have it really easy compared to like what I went through when I first got here. That's how I felt. But
well, I kind of get the feeling too. I kind of get the feeling too that, maybe it's just because you were one of the first people to get there. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, there's not that many people here. Let's see what we can get. How much we can get away with here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I also like later I had a conversation with Chafin and Cameron where they were like, we want to start our own program and it will only be girls. Like I think they really enjoyed working with the girls. Like they seem to see the boys as kind of like a bother, but they really liked like getting down in there with us, like and like making us cry. And I mean, they personally knew so much about us. I mean, obviously, like I babysat Cameron's kid all the time, but they knew a lot about like my history and like what I'd been through. And I don't know. So it was really interesting. Like Chafin even, in the Mormon church, they do this thing where they like lay their hands on your head and give you a blessing. It's like a Mormon ritual kind of thing. And Chafin even did that for me. Like, I don't know. It's just, it was really different when it was very small.
Yeah, I'm really glad you read that poem. Yeah, I can remember doing, excuse me. I can remember doing some sort of obstacle course when we were there. It was up in the woods, and there was like a swing, like we had to like swing from one rock to another rock, and like if you fucked up, like you like had to fall off into the fucking swampy water or whatever. And then there was they did this fucking, man, I'm trying to remember because there was like a bunch of shit they had us do. Like there was something with like a bunch of tires, like they had us run like an obstacle course, and there's like parts.
Yeah, that sounds like a ropes course.
Yeah, they had.
They definitely did not have that when I was there, or at least we weren't. And see, the thing is, like, I love that stuff. Like even the gravel pit, I was like, hell yeah, because I'm like, I've always been pretty physically active. Like I like physical challenges, but it's really different when like your freedom to go home is based on your performance. Like it's really different than if you sign up for something like that. I don't know how to explain it. Like I like difficult things. I like challenges. I've done a lot of hard things in my life. I've lived in foreign countries. I've like surfing is kind of a hard sport, and I got into that. Like I like hard things, but it's really different when you're not there of your own will, and when somebody has 100% power over you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a really different experience.
I was gonna ask you, because when you were reading, the feeling I got from it was that you saw Chafin or whatever as like he was like almost like getting off on like.
Yeah.
Okay, is that the feeling
sense I got from him?
Okay,
yes.
Because I had written here that your story really illustrates how much of a sociopathic psychopath Chafin is, who gets off by hurting others, a true sadist. Like, that's literally the feeling that I got when you're reading that, is that he got off on like putting you through as much fucking shit. Like, you know what I mean? Just like, and you said Carly Newman pushing her until she kills herself type shit.
Dude, that girl, you know, they had her carrying around a bucket, and they'd put rocks in her bucket, and she had to carry it everywhere, like in the weeks before she died. Yeah, you know, like I'm hesitant to, what's it called? Like to diagnose somebody. I mean, I'm not a licensed therapist, so I can't say that he was a sadist or a sociopath or whatever. And I know that my feelings about him are definitely biased because he was my tormentor. Yeah. I mean, that guy really tried to mess with me. And not only was it like he was cruel to me one day, but then the next day he'd be all like he had me wear his wedding ring for a week. And that was construed as like, oh, so nice. Like, oh, he's showing Cami how like worthy she is, or, you know, something like that. But like, I didn't have a choice. He had 100% power and I had 0. And I have heard that he later went on to groom people and sexually assault people, or, you know, he had a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old who was in the program. I don't know anything about that. I don't know if those allegations are true. He was never physical with me. I want to, you know, reiterate that. Like, he was never sexually explicit with me or anything like that. But I think that like when somebody is in a position of not just like extreme social power, not just extreme professional power, but like on every level, he had 100. If Chafin thought poorly of you, your whole program was ruined. You would not go home if Chafin didn't like you. And I knew that I had to do whatever I could to make that guy like me, you know? And people don't understand, like, when there's a power imbalance, things get weird, you know? So it doesn't surprise me to hear that he later went on to groom and have a sexual relationship with one of the students. And I think that Montana even changed a state law because of him, because the age of consent in Montana was 16. And now they say if you're in a treatment program, you can't have a sexual relationship with, you know, your people there. So I don't know the details of that case. And I don't want to know. I feel for that girl, because I know that in that position, it would have, first of all, you can't talk to your parents. In that position, it would have been very hard to, you can't get the word out. You can't displease this guy. You have to please him to move ahead with your life. Yeah. You're literally locked up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he even understands that. Like, perhaps in Chafin's mind, he's like, yeah, that girl really dug me. Yeah, Chafin, I'm sure she was super into like a way older, fat, married father. I'm sure that is what makes every teenage girl's heart sing. Okay. Like, when I met Chafin, he was 26. They were 25 or 26 when they were put in charge of that program. And the program does that strategically. They take babies who don't know anything about the world and they put them in charge. It's a way so that they can maintain control over them. You know what I mean? So it's crazy that they were 26 years old when they were in charge of all of our lives. Anyway, sorry.
It's even crazier.
I do get a little.
What's even fucking crazier to me is that, have you heard of the Stanford prison experiment that they conducted?
Yes.
Didn't we learn our fucking lesson with that shit? Like, literally, it took less than like what, a day before they started turning on the fucking inmate. Like, literally, that's exactly the kind of same shit that they're doing in the program.
Yes. That was like an introductory psych class when I was first in college. They talked about that experiment.
Yeah.
And I had a panic attack and I had to write a paper on it. And I'm pretty sure my whole paper was just like stream of consciousness, like crazy. I was like, I have been in this situation, you know. It was one of those rare occasions when I let the curtain come back in my mind and I thought about the program. Yeah, that's great. The Stanford, there's so many things that remind me of the program. The Stanford prison experiment, like Squid Games, like all these things. And the Stanford prison experiment, like, it was the girlfriend who stepped in and was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this is going to affect these kids for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Where was our woman who could step in and say that for us? Nobody did it, you know?
During Trail of Lights, did they make you write a letter to your parents as if you were dead? Like as if you were gonna kill yourself or some shit? They made us write like suicide notes or whatever to our parents when we went through Trail of Lights.
It seems like we might have written something to our future selves. I think it sounds like that that process or challenge, or yeah, I guess that would be a process. It sounds like that like evolved a lot because I think I was in the first or the second one ever, and it was like Chafin's thing. So yeah, I don't remember very much about it. I just remember staggering blindfolded in the snow, which was unpleasant, but whatever. I mean, why not do that? Like, it's not like I had a choice.
For sure. Well, was there anything else you wanted to add to your story?
I mean, there's just so much more. Oh, I'm writing a book about this, which is why I had that piece of writing. Yeah. I'm not great at finishing things. I'm not great at getting things done. So hopefully I will. Yeah. I've got like the first 3 days written. It's taken me like a year. So we'll see if I ever get much more written. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. And it's been like super therapeutic to write about it. So yeah.
Do you have a
kind
name?
Of my obsession right now.
Do you have a name so you can plug it here right now and be like, just stay tuned for it?
It'll probably be at least a year before, probably longer, before I can even publish. The working title is We Were Programmed.
Okay.
But yeah, I have no idea. You know, maybe if I do, hopefully your podcast is still going and you know, even bigger at that time, and I can come back and be like, hey, I wrote my book.
Yeah.
Plug my pluggables.
Yeah, do that. That'd be hella cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add to your story?
Oh yeah, actually, I put together. Hold on, I put together an email address. I haven't even used it. I haven't even checked in. But if somebody wants to know updates about the book or anything like that, they can get me at wewereprogrammed@gmail.com. So that's like WEWEREPROGRAMMED@gmail.com. I've never even checked that email, but I'll check it. So if you want updates on the book, go ahead and email me there. Yeah. And that's it, I think.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that I admire your bravery, especially being thrown into the rock pit your third day there. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. Seems like it was a lot rougher than when I was there. I mean, it was still shitty as fuck, but yeah, seems like it was a bit shittier when you were there. And I just wanted to, yeah, thank you guys all for listening. And hopefully y'all enjoy like 2 or 3 hour-long videos. I think they'll be pretty happy that they got 3 videos tonight. So
I can talk a lot, so yeah.
Guys,
all right, thanks so much for having me on. Like something about being able to share. Huh?
Go ahead.
Oh, just being able to share, like it's one thing to tell your friend or your therapist or whatever, but talking to somebody who was actually there and knows some of the people involved and knows the place, like there's something like next level therapeutic about that. So thank you. Yeah. For putting all this together. That's awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. And if you find that list or whatever, we can do it part 4.
Okay,
Part
cool.
4. And
I
then,
feel like
when you
I'm
make your
hearing
book,
from
we'll
me.
do a part. When you make your book, we'll do part 5.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I hope you're still going at
All
that
right.
time. I mean, it might take a little while to get traction.
Yeah, I plan on it, but unless people unsubscribe, I don't think I'm gonna fall off.
Okay, cool. Let
That'll
me
be
know if
good.
there's any way I can help.
All right, cool. Yep. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thanks for
Okay.
coming on.
You too. Take care. See ya. Bye.